we spent a lot of time looking at alternative asset classes, especially Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, I'm not convinced on the cryptos, because if you've got a currency, whether it be a dollar, the yen, renminbi, ultimately governments can raise taxes, issue bonds, cut deficits. They can basically shore up currencies. Bitcoin is an alternative asset class like gold. But even with gold, you can take physical delivery, it has historical use, and it actually at one point backed the dollar. So consequently, I look at the Bitcoin itself and the cryptos as really as it's got a scarcity value, it's a trading coin, but it's ultimately not a currency. Whereas stable coins are backed one for the most part. We saw some of the earlier stable coins didn't have fiat currency backing them one for one, and those basically had very, very bad outcomes. That said, even stable coins can't actually move at the level you need in the billions and trillions into the commercial aspects of finance and the global financial systems. So I think they're valuable, they have a role, but they still won't, I don't believe, overtake potential for the digital fiat currencies. But it's a very good halfway house, so to speak.
But I've got to ask you, and I know I'm not trying to take sides here. I choose not to take sides. But the biggest retort to what you suggested is that, yes, in terms of Bitcoin having a function of utility, maybe not. But for anyone that wants to avoid the potential perils when we're talking about CBDCs, when we're talking about stablecoins, the lack of privacy, the ability of any kind of authority to pause your ability to transact ad nauseum with just one stroke, one click, instead of having hard cash, and all of these concerns when it comes to privacy, and especially who's going to be able to assess your transactions and what this is going to mean for, the big brother construct that a lot of people like talking about, that is inherently the problem with having these CBDCs, with having these stable coins, and Bitcoin perhaps doesn't have those problems. So how do you foresee CBDCs trying to address some of these concerns, or do you think that it's a given and people are just going to have to accept that this is the path forward?
Well, first of all, I think right now we've got electronic currencies as it is. So the fiat currencies move throughout the system on electronics. And ultimately, the value in a fiat currency is around the governments and its ability, as I said, to raise funds, to issue bonds. And if they wanted to click them on and off, they could do that now even with the electronic. So I think ultimately, if any government did that, if there was great concern over that, they would destroy the value of that fiat currency. So ultimately, I still don't buy into the fact that if we move from a more electronic type of movement of fiat currencies to a digital, which will basically take out friction in the market, move things quicker, more efficiently, the idea that basically the US, Europeans, Chinese will just flip a switch or track those, ultimately they then undermine and destroy the value of their currency and pose huge issues. And by the way, as I said, they could do some of that right now if they wanted to. So consequently, I think that's really a bit of a misnomer. And at the end of the day, as I mentioned, the Bitcoin, what's backing it other than scarcity? I think the value on that, if you're going to look for alternative asset classes, I think there's many others with more value behind them where you can take physical delivery and they actually have real uses in the real economy.